welcome to our webinar today entitled Quick Meals for Recovery with McGill Dietetic intern Elena Zhao. Elena will be explaining the basics of nutrition for recovery, which involves strategies for after your training and general nutrition habits that have been shown to help decrease inflammation and promote health and performance. Elena will also be preparing spaghetti with turkey meatballs. Thanks, Elena, for preparing this session for us today, and we look forward to learning from you.
Thank you, Terry, for the introduction. It is my pleasure to have the opportunity to be here to talk about recovery nutrition with all of you. I hope by the end of today's session, you'll be able to learn some key strategies to help you recover from your exercise and get excited to try out the recipe I'll be sharing today. Okay, so this is the outline for today's webinar. We'll start with nutrition basics about the 6 essential nutrients. Then I'll explain the physiological changes during exercise before we dive into the details of nutrition for recovery. Then I'll share the recipe for spaghetti and turkey meatballs with a cooking demo and talk about the component meal prep methods. We'll then end the webinar with some meal prep food safety considerations. Okay, let's get started. There are 6 essential nutrients in total, which include the carbohydrate, the protein, the fat, vitamin, minerals, and water. They're called essential nutrients because they're required by the body to perform its basic functions, and our body do not make enough of them on their own. So we must acquire these nutrients through our diet. You might be wondering what basic functions each of them support and where you could get these nutrients. So for carbohydrate, they're the body's main source of energy. They're the key fuel for the brain and muscles during exercise. Having adequate carbohydrate in our diet help us to preserve the muscle mass during exercise. And the main food sources for carbohydrate include the whole grain, legumes, fruits and vegetables, especially the starchy vegetables like squash and potato, and also dairy products. For protein, its main role in our bodies include making up the structural components of our cells and tissues, helping us to repair and strengthen muscle tissues after exercise, and also transporting and storing different nutrients. We have animal sources of protein such as meat, fish, eggs, and dairy products. We also have plant-based protein sources such as legume, nuts and seeds, and soy products like tofu. For fats, people often associate them with bad health. However, they are important to us because they act as energy reserve for our body. They help to protect our organs, keep our body warm when we're exposed to cold temperatures, and help us to absorb fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A, D, E, and K. Sources for healthy fat include plant oils, fatty fish, nuts and seeds, and some produce like avocado. Fats can be found in dairy product and meat as well, but because they tend to have a higher content of saturated fat, we should choose lean meat such as skinless chicken and turkey, and low-fat dairy product like skim and 1% cow's milk more often. For vitamins and minerals, we only need them in small amounts, but they are involved in many different body functions, such as proper vision, the immune system, fluid balance, nerve transmission, and muscle contractions. In general, a healthy, balanced diet, as here shown on Canada's Food Guide, can provide adults with enough of the vitamins and minerals. And usually, supplements are only needed to correct the nutrient deficiency. Okay, and here comes the last essential nutrient, which is water. It has numerous critical roles in the human body, such as moving nutrient and waste through the body, regulating body temperature, keeping the blood pressure normal, and lubricating the joints and organs. Here I want to point out that we should consume drinks that contain caffeine in moderation because caffeine is a diuretic, meaning that it can increase the amount of water and salt removed from the body through urine. So we should choose water and other caffeine-free beverages more often, such as the herbal tea and milk. Okay, before we move on to the next section, here comes our first poll question. The main role of protein in the body is to And what is a good source of protein? To enter your answers, you could click the link for webinar poll questions under links and download on the webpage for today's webinar. Okay, I'll give you a few more seconds before I share the answer. Okay, and the answer is C. The main role of protein in the body is to build and repair muscles and body tissues, and fish is a good source of protein. In terms of fueling the brain and muscles during exercise, this is one of the main roles of carbohydrates. And protecting the internal organs, this is one of the main roles of fats. Next, I'd like to briefly talk about the physiological changes that occur during exercise because they explain the reasons behind the goals for recovery nutrition. During exercise, muscles contract to allow movement. And to power muscle contractions, the body burns the stored energy. During exercise, muscles also go through physical stress, and this leads to some micro tears being created in the muscle fiber. As you continue exercising, your body temperature rises, so your body will start to sweat in order to cool itself. You might be wondering where the energy is stored in our body. In other words, what are the fuel sources in our body? So during exercise, the muscles have two main fuel sources. One of them is the muscle glycogen, which is the carbohydrate stored in the muscle. The other main fuel source is the muscle triglycerides, which are the fats being stored in the muscle. The main differences between the two are that the glycogen stores in muscles are relatively limited, and the muscle glycogen is a preferred fuel source during intense exercise because it can be converted to energy faster than the muscle triglycerides. As shown here in the figure, a higher ratio of carbohydrate is used compared to fats as the exercise intensity increases. So exercise intensity is one of the factors that affect how much fuel sources are used. Another factor is exercise duration. And obviously, the longer the exercise lasts, the more fuel is burned for energy. You may have heard of hitting the wall. That's when muscles have used up all their stored glycogen and people start to feel extreme fatigue. Therefore, after exercise, it is extremely important to replenish muscle glycogen before engaging in exercise again to optimize performance. Now, with a general understanding of what could happen during exercise, here are the three main goals of nutrition for recovery. So first is to replace the muscle glycogen burned during exercise. And second is to provide protein to promote muscle repair and growth. And third is to restore fluids and electrolytes lost through sweat during exercise. For goal number one, we could achieve it with adequate consumption of carbohydrate by eating carbohydrate-rich food such as pasta and other carbohydrate food sources that I mentioned earlier. But how much is adequate? Well, this would depend on a number of factors such as height, weight, exercise duration, intensity, training needs, and feedback from performance. And as you can see, many aspects need to be considered when estimating the carbohydrate needs. So if you want to have a better understanding of your own needs, you could schedule an appointment with Thea. She can definitely help you with that. And the details of nutrition counseling services for individual participants can be found on the Perform Center website. Although carbohydrate targets could be different for each athlete, here are some strategies for replenishing glycogen store that everyone can benefit from. But once glycogen is depleted, you will feel fatigued. So to bounce back faster, consume a carbohydrate snack soon after exercise. If possible, eat within 30 minutes after exercise because during this period of time, your body can produce glycogen from the carbohydrate you eat at a faster rate. And here are some examples of carbohydrate-rich snack. You could eat a handful of trail mix, some cracker with peanut butter, some pita bread with hummus, a carton of chocolate milk, or yogurt. If you're going to be competing or training again in less than 8 hours, then the timing of carbohydrate intake becomes important to ensure adequate recovery. So you would want to consume 1 to 1.2 gram per kilogram per hour for the first 4 hours. And then you can resume your normal meal schedule to maximize the glycogen storage. Having small regular snacks like the one I just showed you and choosing carbohydrate-rich food and drinks would be helpful. When longer recovery periods are allowed, then the focus should be meeting the energy and the carbohydrate targets. The timing and pattern of carbohydrate intake become less important. You could then plan your meals and snacks based on your preferences and your schedule. Although whole foods are preferred over any sports food or supplement, sometimes athletes could have limited access to food supply when they travel within or between countries for competition. Then in this case, sports gels or sports bars could be consumed as alternative to help quickly replenish some muscle glycogen soon after exercise. For athletes who can't tolerate solid food well immediately after exercise, but do have a short recovery period, then sports gels can be helpful as well. For goal number 2, strategies to optimize muscle repair and growth include consuming about 20 to 30 grams of protein in one sitting within 2 hours after exercise. It might sound surprising, but higher intakes of protein do not have additional benefits in promoting muscle growth and could even make it challenging for you to meet your other nutrient needs. What actually could be beneficial is to consume protein and carbohydrates together. So having meals with real foods would be a better choice than drinking a bottle of protein powder. And here are some ideas for a quick post-exercise meal. For example, a chicken sandwich, spaghetti and meatballs, or a rice bowl with steak and some cooked vegetables. Protein supplements are popular among athletes. However, as I alluded to earlier, oftentimes they are not necessary. We should always prioritize whole food protein sources and a balanced diet that includes a variety of foods and provide adequate energy and usually meet your protein needs. At the same time, there's not enough evidence for using protein supplement to actually improve the performance. It is only when the whole food protein sources aren't convenient or available, then a tested protein supplement could be used as an easy, portable protein source. However, using supplements often comes with additional cost, so definitely to keep that in mind. For goal number 3, to optimize rehydration, you should not rely on thirst as an indicator of when to rehydrate, because when you feel thirsty, you are already dehydrated. It is recommended to weigh in before and after exercise and drink about 1 to 1.5 liter of fluid for every kilogram of body weight loss soon after exercise. And because sodium is a major electrolyte lost through sweat, and it actually helps your body to hold on to the fluid you're drinking, so there is no need to avoid salt in your food after exercise or training, especially if you are sweating a lot. If you are not eating other foods during the rehydration period, you could add some salt to the water. It is important to rehydrate soon after exercise, but you should still drink water and other fluids throughout the day to stay hydrated. Carrying a reusable water bottle with you could help you remind you to drink more. Sport drinks could be a source of fluid for sure, but again, are they always necessary? Athletes who will benefit most from a sports drink are those who exercise intensely for more than 60 minutes at a time or exercise in hot or humid weather. Otherwise, drinking water is sufficient for rehydration purposes. You might be wondering, how about alcohol? It's a liquid. Well, yeah, it's a liquid, but it has a diuretic effect on the body. It can also interfere with your recovery after exercise. So you should minimize or avoid alcohol consumption for optimal recovery. Okay, time for poll questions. Which of the following is a key nutrition goal for recovery? If you chose D, you are correct. All of them are key nutrition goals for recovery. Fluid and electrolyte are lost through sweat during exercise, so we need to restore them. Same for the muscle glycogen, which is the main fuel source being used during exercise. Protein will help repair the micro tears created in the muscle fibers and promote muscle growth. Next question, you and your teammates have the same carbohydrate targets because both of you play the same sport. Is it true or false? And the answer is it's false because even both of you play the same sport, there are many other factors can affect your carbohydrate needs, such as height, weight, and feedback from performance. Okay, now with the understanding that meals and snacks that are rich in carbohydrates, along with protein, can help refuel our body after exercise, I'm going to share a recipe for making spaghetti and turkey meatballs that can be served as a perfect post-exercise meal. The dish comes with 3 components, and here is a list of ingredients and equipment you'll need to make each of them. This recipe contains wheat and cheese. So if you're allergic to either ingredient, here are some substitution ideas. For the whole wheat spaghetti, you could replace it with gluten-free pasta, spaghetti squash, or others such as quinoa pasta, which has a nutty flavor that some people really like. And for the Parmesan cheese, you could substitute with dairy-free cheese and use it the same way as a Parmesan by adding it to the meatballs and sprinkle on the spaghetti at the end. If you want to use something else, then eggs could be a good alternative to add into the meatball because they help you to combine all ingredients together. Herb and spices of your choice can be used as well to add more flavors to the meatballs. And then instead of cheese, you could top the spaghetti with nutritional yeast or tahini paste. Both have meat texture and a cheesy nutty flavor. Okay, and now let's watch the cooking demo.
We should always wash hands before preparing foods. So we start by wetting the hands with water, apply soap, rub the palms together, then rub the back of the hands, interlink the fingers, clean the thumbs, then gently scrub the palm under the nails, and then rub both wrists in a rotating manner. Finally, rinse the hands thoroughly with running water. Next, we're going to prepare the vegetables. Rinse them under the running water to remove the dirt on the surface. Then we peel the carrots. Always peel from the top to the bottom. Be careful with your fingers. Then grate the carrot using a downward motion. Shake up the carrots that stick to the grater. For the parsley, I like to dry it using a paper towel to make it easier to chop. Then, separate the shorter stem from the longer ones. Chop up the stems together. Then we rotate and twist the leaves to make them tightly compressed, and start chopping. For the basil, take the leaves off the stems. I'll save these 2 cute leaves to use as a garnish at the end. For the rest, stack them up. Cut in the middle. Roll them up. And then begin chopping. For the garlic, we don't peel it like this. To break it apart, we put it upside down and use the heel of the hand to push down on the garlic bulb. Go two-handed like me if you need more force. Now, there's still some skins covered outside. So next, place the flat side of the knife on the clove. The knife's blade side should always be positioned away from you. Then, push down firmly. Now it becomes very easy to peel off the skin. Don't cut the root of the garlic yet, because it helps to keep the slices together as we chop it. We start by slicing vertically, then slicing horizontally. After that, when we chop it from the top, the garlic becomes nicely minced. The last vegetable we'll cut today is the onion. Cut the onion in half and put the flat side down so that onion is stable on the cutting board. Peel off the skin. Trim off the end. Just like the garlic, we keep the root to hold the slices in place when we cut the onion. Point the knife towards the root. Slice the onion vertically. Then, make 3 to 4 cuts horizontally through the onion. Then, turn the onion around and chop it from the top. Here we go. We have the minced onion now. For the root, just cut it using an up and down motion. Now we're going to grate the Parmesan cheese. Grasp the brick of Parmesan and slice it up and down the grater. Once we have all the ingredients ready, we can start making our meatballs. In a large bowl, combine the ground turkey, parsley, about half the Parmesan cheese, the bread crumble, and the pepper. We will sprinkle the rest of the cheese on the spaghetti at the end. Keep mixing until the ingredients are thoroughly combined. Before we turn the mixture into meatballs, spray non-stick cooking spray directly onto the bottom of the baking sheet and set the parchment paper on top. To make the meatballs, simply use a 50 ml measuring spoon to scoop the turkey mixture and use your hands to roll it into a ball. This recipe makes a total of 12 meatballs for 3 servings. Bake the meatballs in preheated oven for 10 minutes. When we remove the meatballs from the oven, they should be nicely browned. Next is a very important step. Use a food thermometer to check whether each meatball has reached a safe internal temperature to avoid food poisoning. Now let's make the spaghetti sauce. Simply add the canned ground tomatoes, grated carrots, chopped onion, basil, garlic, hot pepper flakes, and 1 cup of water into a saucepan. Mix well and bring it to a simmer. You can skip the hot pepper flakes if you don't like the taste. Then, add our meatballs into the sauce and simmer for about 30 minutes or until thickened. While the sauce is simmering, in a pot of boiling water, cook spaghetti for about 10 minutes or until tender but firm, or, in another term, al dente. Don't forget to add some salt to the pasta water. To check for doneness, break 1 strand of spaghetti to see if there is a solid white spot in the center. If it disappears, the spaghetti is cooked al dente. Then use a colander to drain the spaghetti. If you're going to share the spaghetti with others, return it to the pot and mix well with the tomato sauce and the meatballs. If you're cooking for yourself, you could also put plain spaghetti on a plate and pour the sauce on top. Last but not least, sprinkle with the remaining cheese to serve.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed watching the whole process of making this dish from scratch. Let's now take a closer look at the nutrition facts. If you think back the goals for recovery nutrition, we want to consume carbohydrate to replenish the muscle glycogen, and this recipe provides 55 grams of carbohydrate per serving to help you meet your needs in the recovery period. And each serving has a cup of spaghetti and 4 meatballs. In addition to carbohydrate, we also want to consume protein to promote muscle repair and growth. And there's 28 grams of protein in each serving, meeting the recommendation of consuming 20 to 30 grams of protein in 1 sitting after exercise. In terms of rehydration, you could enjoy this dish with a glass of water to help you restore your fluid loss. A quick note here to help you interpret these numbers on the side. So they are the percent daily values, which tell you if a food has a little or a lot of a nutrient. 5% or less mean there's a little of a nutrient. 15% or more means there's a lot of a nutrient. So here, as you can see, in each serving, there's a lot of carbohydrate and other nutrients like fiber, vitamin A, vitamin C, calcium, and iron. In terms of the food cost, this recipe is cost effective. Each serving is about $9, and a similar dish that you could find at a restaurant could usually cost you around anywhere between $14 to $20 and only comes with 2 to 3 meatballs. This recipe is also super customizable. Here are some substitution ideas for each component in our recipe. And feel free to substitute with what you have at home or what you prefer to enjoy. We've talked about the options for the spaghetti. Then for the sauce, instead of adding the carrot and onion to the ground tomato, you could use other vegetables like bell pepper, mushroom, zucchini, or spinach leaves. And instead of using the basil, you could substitute with the thyme, parsley, oregano, or others that you like. For making the meatballs, fish or other plant-based protein food like tofu, tempeh, or chickpea can be used as well. As you can see, this recipe has 3 different components, and each of them was prepared separately and assembled together at the end. So this type of recipe is perfect for component meal prep, which is an alternative to the traditional recipe-based meal prep. It's fun and allows you to make new dishes during the week without eating the same thing over and over again. And at the same time, it also has the benefit that the traditional recipe-based meal prep method offers, like saving time, saving money, as well as reducing food waste and stress. Because when you plan ahead and prep ahead, you don't need to struggle with what to eat during the week, and you will spend less time on cooking while still being able to eat a variety of meals. So how does the component meal prep method work? Well, for ingredients that take longer to prepare, batch cook them in advance and then base several meals around them during the week. Examples include rice, pasta, meat, fish, beans, and lentils. For ingredients that need 0 or little cooking, like leafy greens or raw vegetables, we could chop and portion them out to save the prepping time during the week. It's also helpful to have some ready-to-eat food in the kitchen, like bread, the tortilla wraps, nuts and seeds, or herb and spices. Then during the week, you can simply mix and match different prepared components to quickly make various nutritious meals. To give you an idea of how meatballs can be used as a component in other quick meals, here are some examples. So you could serve the meatballs with mashed potato and green beans, or add the meatballs into a pita bread with lettuce, bell pepper, and some yogurt if you like. You could also serve the meatball with some stir-fried bell pepper on rice, or use the meatball as a part of a salad bowl with quinoa and some raw vegetables. If you are new to meal prepping, here are some practical tips to help you get started without feeling overwhelming. Start slow. Just like mastering other skills, it takes time to become a meal prep master. So choose one meal of the day to start with. And then also keep it simple. It's much easier to start with recipes that call for ingredients that you're familiar with. Plan ahead could also help. So pick a day to do your grocery shopping and meal prepping. If you need recipe ideas, Cookspiration, Half Your Plate, Rock with What You've Got are great resources to use. The Cookspiration was developed by Dietitians of Canada. Each recipe showcases the nutritional details. Recipes from Half Your Plate also provide nutrition facts to help you make informed choices. The Rock with What You've Got recipe book has many 2-in-1 recipes that you could use for component meal prep. Some additional tips to help you plan your meals on a budget. So plan your meals around food that are on sale. So you could check the store flyers and coupon, the coupon sites online, and to find the best deals. Or instead of going through different sites one by one, there's a great app you could use to browse all flyers from your favorite stores all at once and add coupons directly to your loyalty card. This app is free, so if you're interested, go ahead and check it out. The second tip is to buy seasonal fruits and vegetables. But if the ones you wish to buy are out of season or quite expensive for the fresh ones, you could then buy the frozen or canned fruit and vegetables instead. They're just as nutritious as the fresh ones. Okay, we have one poll question here before we go to the next section. Which of the following is not a strategy to help plan meals on a budget? If you chose C, that's correct, because oftentimes we tend to buy more when we grocery shop while hungry. Okay, I'd like to end today's webinar with some food safety tips to help you avoid food spoilage and prevent food poisoning. When you cook meat, poultry, fish, and seafood, it is important to make sure the correct internal temperature is reached. In the cooking demo, I was cooking ground turkey, so the internal temperature I was aiming for was 74 degrees Celsius. Then to check the temperature, always use a food thermometer. Also, separate the utensils and plates that you use for the raw and cooked meat, because harmful bacteria can be transferred from the raw meat to your cooked foods. When chilling your food, make sure to refrigerate or freeze them within 2 hours. The food could become unsafe to consume if they're left in the temperature danger zone for more than 2 hours, because the bacteria can grow rapidly between 4 to 6 degrees Celsius. And for very hot items, you could cool them at room temperature first and then store them in the fridge right away once the steaming stops. To cool food faster, you could place them in an uncovered shallow container. When we store the cooked foods, always use clean containers or leak-free plastic bags. Food not consumed within 2 to 3 days should be stored in the freezer. And to help you identify and know when to finish your food, label your packages with date and content. It's also important to not overstock your fridge, because this could interrupt the circulation of the cool air around the food. Lastly, when we reheat our foods, the food must reach at least 74 degrees Celsius to kill the bacteria in the food. And for frozen food, they should be defrosted either in the fridge or in the microwave to stay out of the temperature danger zone. So never let your food defrost on the counter. Last but not least, only reheat the amount you need, because cooked food can only be reheated once. Okay, to wrap up today's webinar, we have 2 more poll questions. You can tell if meat is safely cooked by checking its color and texture. Is it true or false? And the answer is false, because using a thermometer to check the internal temperature is the only way to tell if meat is safely cooked. And our last question, which of the following is not a food safety practice to prevent food poisoning? And all of them are food safety practices except for B, because overstocking your fridge can prevent proper airflow around food. Okay, this brings us to the end of today's webinar. I hope you find it helpful and informative. For more personalized nutrition recommendations and strategies to help you achieve your goals, feel free to schedule an appointment with Taya, and here is her contact information. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. And please join us for other webinars in the future and view our Perform webinar page for previous Perform content. We appreciate your feedback and suggestions and ask you to take time to complete the brief survey link on the Perform webinar page. It will be on the sides here. So thanks so much. Take care and have a great day.